She got a Honda HRV.
CRV.
Oh, HRV. They made the CRV kind of nice little camera, so the HRV. So, there's
Car wash today, so.
Good evening. I'd like to bring the meeting to order and ask that roll be called, please.
Feldman.
Here.
Olshauser. Humbles.
Here.
Smith. Here. Tyra.
Here.
Wackenbach.
Here.
Wisdom.
I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The board will now move on to the public portion of the meeting. We're going to begin with Dr. Dearman's superintendent report. Dr. Dearman.
Sure this thing picks up. Good evening. Wanted to touch on a few things. First one is, I don't know if you've noticed, but we've had some poor weather as of late. It's been a little chilly at times, and I've had a lot of questions about procedures as far as e-learning goes and why some districts are doing it and why we aren't, or can we do it? So I wanted to clarify. We do have an e-learning plan in place that we can use thanks to Mr. Andrews and his team. They got that developed. It's ready to go. However, we will not be using that unless we get to the 5th snow day. Many of the districts that use e-learning, and talking with my colleagues, they use it primarily because their argument is they put their snow days at the end of the calendar. And the argument is, well, an e-learning day like last Friday when school was canceled, to them is still a more productive day than a makeup day at the very end of the year. Well, our calendar is a little bit different in that we don't have them all just tacked at the end. Ours are those last days, Fridays in May, and then the one day in April. So May 3rd or May 10th, those are going to be normal days for us. So we'll get good educational value out of those days. The reason we would use it on the 5th day, because the way our calendar is structured, if we get to 5 snow days, that's worst case scenario, that pushes us to the Tuesday after Memorial Day. I could make a strong argument that that's probably not going to be a very valuable educational day. We may even have trouble getting people to show up. So we would, worst case scenario, have an e-learning day, that 5th snow day, if we even have it. So that's where we're at with it. School closings. When school closes, there's a lot of people that are still working. And I need to give credit to the maintenance crews, especially Joe Wolf and his crew over the weekend. They worked all weekend because it was bitterly cold. We had boilers going down right and left, and they were able to keep us up and running. Brad Schoolman out at the bus barn, keeping our buses. You can't let those sit for 4 days in that kind of temperature. You had to come in and get them all going each day just to make sure that they were ready to go when we did resume school. So thank you to those people for getting us to the point where we could have school when the weather let up. A lot of work goes into that. And then the last item I have, other than the FOIA requests, Wilder Weight Committee met last night. That's the committee that is organizing to provide information regarding the referendum that we hope to run in November. Well, not that we hope to, hopefully we will, regarding the need to build a new elementary school in place of Wilder Weight. Mr. Tyra serves as the board member on that committee, along with many others, not just school people, but community members as well. So we are working towards that goal. We are actually ahead of schedule. We have a plan. We have a timeline, and things are moving in a very positive direction. But thank you to them for their time doing that. And the last housekeeping item, FOIA request. We had one, and Mr. McKenzie is in the process of filling that FOIA request. That is all I have at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Dearman. This time we'll move on to public comments. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? If so, please raise your hand. Thank you. Before addressing the board, I'd like to remind you of our process. Per Board Policy 2:230, we ask that when addressing the board, please identify yourself and be brief. The comment shall be limited to 5 minutes. Speakers asked to please conduct oneself with civility towards others. Individuals less than 18 years of age are permitted to address the board if accompanied by his or her parent. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration at a later date if necessary. To be respectful of others and to protect confidentiality, complaints against individual students, staff members, or board members, either named or unnamed, shall not be orally presented to the Board of Education. Such complaints should be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making the charges, and delivered to the Board of Education Secretary. At this time, I'd like to ask anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward, sign the public participation sheet. Then each speaker that comes to the podium will begin by speaking into the microphone, stating their name and the topic they will be addressing. Thank you. Sorry,
Thanks.
I have to read that.
You're good.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brad Love. I am the department chair for the Social Studies Department at the high school. And I'm here to speak tonight about the board voting down the History Through Sports class at the last meeting. I'm very curious about the research and methodology the board took with the History Through Sports class our department proposed some months ago. I've watched the comments made over and over from this board and still am not exactly sure what the major concerns that are occurring. I'm able to ascertain that complaints were made due to one of the authors listed in the syllabus. However, the board member that listed this made a factual mistake in her internet search about the correct author, which I fear may have led to misinformation for other members of this board. The author, board member, cited Howard Zinn, a left-leaning socialist historian, was not listed on the syllabus, okay, at all on that thing. Was not listed on the syllabus, and we're not sure why it's being brought up, as the author has nothing to do with this class or syllabus that was presented to the board. There is an author and sports editor listed, Dave Zirin, who has published 11 books on politics and sports. We're not sure if that was a confusion between those two of not reading the author correctly and then using that time to check it out, but that's where we're at right now. So the entire argument was based on an author that was never even in the syllabus. So I'm not really sure, okay? We have had months to be able to look at this thing. I was stunned and disheartened to see the incredible amount of fantastic work put together by a doctor of curriculum and instruction, be voted down by a lack of factual research on the part of the board. The time and effort Dr. Bergschneider put into this work should have at least been reciprocated by this board to look into the class proposal with fidelity and integrity. In my 18-year tenure here at Dunlap High School, we've only had one board concern in this department on one class 16 years ago when we proposed current events. Current events, we had two members that were not so sure about it, okay? They were worried about a political slant. Totally understandable in the beginning of a process. They asked to meet, these two board members. We did meet. We met for the first time. We discussed the class. We discussed what's going to be about the class. From that point on, they asked, can we meet next week? We might have more questions. We met next week. We went through those questions. Both of those board members got on board. Then I invited them to come back next year when that class was running, to come back, sit in my class as often as you would like to watch. They did. They came. And I didn't hear a word about a political slant after that ever again. 16 years that class has been running. I haven't heard one complaint in our department about it. I asked why there was no discussion between the apprehensive board members in our department. There's been more than adequate time to discuss and work as a team rather than going it alone. I also asked what previous actions from our department warrant such blatant lack of trust in our professionalism. We teach, we don't preach. There's a big difference. Wherever our lies, our ideas lie, those stay on their own. We're there to present factual information and allow students to make an informed decision to be able to put their best foot forward and to be served for the future. I've had more students come to me asking about this class in the past 2 months than I've had about any class ever proposed in our department. People are excited. I've taught AP for 18 years. I also teach regular division classes. And I've taught about every single class this social studies department has to offer. And have even created some classes to go along with it. And at the end of the day, our department, at least as far as I know, I haven't heard one complaint from a board member, from an administrator, from a parent on being politically biased in what we're trying to accomplish. We're putting these ideas out there so they can become informed individuals that can make their own decisions. We don't tell people what to think. That's not our job, and it's unprofessional to do that. So now with this proposed class not running next year, our electives are at a capacity, meaning that student and parent choice for their classes is greatly reduced by this decision. Not only that, but now scheduling has been pushed back due to this ongoing saga, putting more pressure on students and parents to make decisions faster than they may have wanted, with less parental choices for our tax-paying families here in Dunlap. I've had more students, as I said, come and ask about this class. As someone who's taught AP, regular level, this is not the same Dunlap it was 10, 15 years ago. Our demographics are changing. Our socioeconomics are changing. We don't have that every single kid is a go-getter. Not that they ever were, but we're sometimes getting less and less of them. When you put together a class like this that gets kids, and I'm not talking about AP kids, okay? Like my kid is gonna be here next year at the high school, not gonna be an AP kid, okay? He heard about this one, thought it was awesome. He loves sports. He thinks sports is great, okay? And because of that, this gets people excited. Sometimes world history too doesn't get people excited. You know, the Middle Ages and things like that, it doesn't relate to their life as much. When you relate information to students and relate it to their life, it means something. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's no one else wishing to address the board. This concludes the public participation portion of the meeting. The board will now move on to information discussion items. The school activity accounts reports are included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? All right. Next, Mr. Holmes will present information regarding the athletic department updates. Mr. Holmes.
Well, thank you for giving me a few minutes here to go over some things that some we've already talked about and you're aware of. But we've also been able to build on some things. And behind me, I invited the coaches. We met with coaches on a number of occasions the last 3, 4, 5 months. Their handprints, their fingerprints are all over this in regards to the hard work, things that they've done, suggestions, ideas, needs, things that they're looking for. And, you know, the first one, obviously, that was on our plate back in July was OSF and athletic training. And Katie Kaz was awesome with this, helping get this going. And now we have, that's old news, but it's something that we've now added with Illinois State. It's now given us a intern to be able to help our student athletes as well. So now we've doubled that up. Under Armour is a branding piece that we've now been able to inherit and take great pride in with our uniforms, our practice gear, our spirit wear, and something that I think our players and our families have enjoyed seeing that branding piece kind of materialize. And other things you've known about and you've seen the last 2, 3, 4 months. Huddle TV is a platform that we're actually utilizing, and we hope to advance and use more with that as we move forward. The one thing Huddle TV does do is allows us a platform for sponsorships, which we haven't really engaged in yet. But I have a group here today that I'm going to introduce as well that will talk about sponsorships and opportunities and fundraising. But also equally important and probably more meaningful, Huddle TV gives us an opportunity for grandparents away, working dads, working moms, family members, siblings in college to be able to view their brother or sister or grandchild at a game. So far, we've We stream football. We've done volleyball, boys and girls basketball. We've done wrestling. We have a huge Male Illini event coming up this Saturday that will be streamed live. We have both boys and girls lacrosse, baseball and softball are now options. So having our families have the ability to stream and watch, and that platform will give our student body an opportunity to engage themselves. Similar to Mr. Love talked about, getting them engaged in coursework, whether it be social media classes, whether it be media production, Clutch Sports. I've spoken with on 2 occasions, getting involved with Dunlap athletes and Dunlap students. I'm meeting with WMBD next Tuesday on how to get more high school sports live in the local level. And Huddle TV is a platform that they're intrigued by. The one thing I do want to show you, I'm not sure community's overly aware of this, but when you click, this link is not a part of the one I shared with you. But what you'll be able to see if it loads here is what the Dunlap fan page does look like, and where you can see the streamed events, where you can see schedules, where you can see upcoming activities. And it may not load here. I'll give it a second or two. But it's on our website, and that's where you go and find those games and those events that are being streamed. And the one thing that will also allow us to move forward with things like Huddle and that type of technology, we partnered with Pitt. I met with Pitt about 2 weeks ago, right before winter break, and you've probably seen programs laying around from Royal Publishing. And there's 40 ads in the fall. There was 49 in the winter. A picture of a dead guy who no longer even exists, but they had to fill space in that program so it wouldn't look blank. It was a mayor of Chicago back in the 1940s who no longer exists, meaning they just fill it to cover space with no meaning, little effort, and things that, they want to maximize their sponsorship to make their money. They give us the program free of cost. You'll see a black and white picture of the teams, and you'll see a lot of advertisements. What PIP is going to do for us starting next year is they're going to create a media guide for us at no cost. We get to keep the sponsorship money. We get to put senior pictures in it. We get to put tidbits that we are collecting now about each program in it. The headshots of seniors, head coaches, and their schedule. So it'll be a 16-page full color that will look a lot different than what we're doing right now, because Royal Publishing is soliciting advertisements. I don't know who they're soliciting.
Me.
Probably you. And
Anybody who's ever advertised in there, they'll call you.
yes.
Every year.
So then if I call
Sometimes.
Dub Ways or Weaver and say, would you want to sponsor a basketball game or a St. Jude night? I thought I already did that. No, I haven't talked to you. No, I did some Royal Publishing. I gave them $2,000, whatever it was, for an inside cover. So they collect the money, they create a black and white copy of it, and they just send it to us. Appreciative. I mean, there's a piece of it that there's some value there, but in regards to going through it and marketing our student athletes, our teams, being proud, traditional, there's a little meaning there. So PIP is going to partner with us for the next 3 years and create it for us at no cost. Now, there's some legwork on our part in the sponsorships, which will be more meaningful to those local businesses because it's going to have more of an impact on the value of that pamphlet, that media guide. And we're doing it to help local businesses as well with our score table and our video screens that I'll get to in a second, but that was something we're excited about. Another piece of partnering, and I'm at a point now where we have 3 interns working in the athletic office, one during third hour, one during an early release, and one during 7th hour. And they're behind me right here. We got John Bargan, Braden Hunt, and Tim Lee. And they're doing things that I can't do. Things like social media updates in regard to graphics that look phenomenal. They have the ability to archive data that takes time. They are doing busing routes in regards to talking to Versatran. They're checking contracts, they're checking the website. They're finding errors that may have existed because of technology, or someone silly like me put in the wrong date. And the things they're doing are freeing a lot of people. We're developing teams in the athletic department like you would in a school. And those teams of coaches that are behind me, the student interns behind me. If you look at this archiving piece, and boy, I hope it loads. This is something I think we're all excited about. Braden, who comes in during third hour, I did a post before Christmas about collecting archives. You can't have tradition if you don't have history. Who is the all-time home run hitter in baseball? Who are the top 10 wins in girls tennis? What's the long jump record? Who's the all-time leading scorer in boys basketball? All those things, our coaches, to their credit, have done a phenomenal job collecting data. Whether you're Coach Gornick, whether you're Coach Caslip, Coach Winskus, who hasn't been here for a long, long time, but has his stuff on Weebly. Weebly was a big thing back in 2006 or 7. You create your own websites. But when I sent this out, they are throwing me data like crazy. These coaches have saved it. They believe in it. They value it. The only problem of it is they have it. They own it. They possess it. So what we've been able to do is the coaches have been awesome and just flooding me with what they have. And now we're piecing together their years. So for example, we start with girls tennis. Because girls tennis, for the most part, is a relatively newer sport. Okay, so 1992 was their first year, and Carla I was the head coach. They went 6-4. We won our first conference championship in 2003. You have your head coaches, your records. These tabs at the bottom have all state participants. First team seniors, Taylor Disherum. You have your second team seniors, your third team. All of our state qualifiers are now here. So at some point, this will be on our website, where you can go and look at Dunlap athletic history and pull up a sport, pull up a year, and see how they did as a team, how they did individually. Mid-Atlantic champions. There's all of our champions in girls tennis. All-time wins. If I'm a 12-year-old girl, I want to beat 106. There's now a goal there. There's now a target there. Taylor Disherum is the all-time single wins leader. So when we talk about building programs, tradition, success, it's contagious. Success is contagious. So having this in front of individuals is going to be important. So I wanted to share that with you, and then obviously the social media posts that you've been able to probably see, and this is what Ken's been working on. So now, the one thing we noticed pretty quickly, if it does load, is every sport did their own. Some were phenomenal, some were okay, some didn't do them at all, some did them certain ways, and I began to get questions like, why do you like this sport better than this sport? Why do you promote that sport more than this sport? Well, I wasn't doing either one of those other than just reposting. So Ken has taken his skills and now creating game day graphics. And then I text him a score at the end of the day. After a basketball game, he'll throw in the score and do a game day result graphic. So now we communicate through social media, doing it that way. So that's pretty cool. And then obviously Johnny takes care of transportation, scheduling, and some managerial stuff for us. So those are the partners we're trying to cultivate. And then a big piece of why I want to share with you as well, to keep you updated what's coming down, in time here, is I put together a fundraising committee. And I took time in trying to identify individuals. I want individuals that have been obviously respected, but people that have done fundraising, people that are in positions of means and experiences and opportunities. And Courtney Meister's here. She is part of the Fitch company and also part of the Braves Club. Obviously has great fundraising skills and highly involved in our community. Christian Lee, who is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. It's all about fundraising. I don't think you exist without fundraising and making money and creating those relationships with the community. And then we have Doug Pinter, who owns another Anytime Fitnesses and also CEO of the Alliance of Nine Stroke Alliance, which is highly involved with Major League Baseball and NFL. If it's good enough for the NFL or Major League Baseball, it might be okay for us. So bringing these people in, knowing what to look for, and the first thing we talked about, and I haven't kind of mentioned this or alluded to it, you're all getting solicited, for donation, an advertisement, a sponsorship, and whether you're a coach on soccer reaching out to someone, and the basketball coach reaches out, and here I am reaching out, or then a parent is doing a fundraiser for girls basketball, and they reach out, and we just have really saturated our community. And really, the businesses get very little for it, other than maybe a small logo on the back of a t-shirt. Because we have Huddle TV now, that has commercials. Now we have things that can be streamed. Now that we have a video scoreboard, that we can, every 5 seconds, run a logo, every 10 seconds, every half hour, whatever it might be, a loop. We now have platforms to get, what's that?
You're 10 minutes.
Okay,
So you
one more minute?
Sure.
Okay. And that will get us through that piece of a sponsorship component. And then a maroon and gold night that we're looking at an annual gala that people want to attend. Sometime in February, where you have an opportunity to have hors d'oeuvres, you have an opportunity to meet coaches. It's at a nice banquet hall, there's food, and it's a silent auction, and we find opportunities to make money through these 2 sponsorships, or 2 fundraising activities. 1, sponsors, and 2, a gala, which will allow us for a 1-year, 3-year, 5-year plan. And then what we've been able to do is we're so reliant right now on the Touchdown Club. So reliant on the Booster Club and the district budget, it is very difficult to do things that are big ticket items. Thank you to Dr. Dearman and to Scott Adrian, because they've been phenomenal the last 4 or 5 months trying to find ways for baseball fields, softball improvements, and then obviously some hurdles that we're looking at purchasing. But you know, those big ticket items of locker rooms, recovery tubs, coordinators, those cost money. Those aren't in the budget, and that's okay. But that's what we're seeking to enhance the opportunity for our student athletes. And I alluded to the scores table already, and the field surface for baseball, softball being fixed and looked at with Dr. Adrian and Dr. Dearman, and then enhancing the athletic center and the offices. Another piece of this, and this is the last slide I have, is how do you get down to the student athlete? How do you enhance the experience of their season? Our baseball team is going to Myrtle Beach for a spring break trip, playing high-level baseball. Where you play here, you're probably getting rained out, maybe even snowed out. We're going to go south and play 6, 7, 8 games. Softball's doing the exact same thing, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, over spring break. So 2 spring break trips that most programs that value sports take part in, and they're doing that. And then our boys and girls both enjoyed success at the Holiday State Farm Classic in Bloomington, which is the premier tournament in Illinois. And then we had our first girls basketball Thanksgiving tournament, which kept our families home, and we had high-level basketball there as well. So that's a quick update on where we're at, what we've done. We got a lot going on. People behind me, I'm appreciative of. They're working hard, got great ideas, and those teaming pieces are coming to play now. So.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes, and thank you, our volunteers. We really appreciate it. I know we have a foundation. It's not been super active, so I appreciate you taking this and running with it. Well done.
Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it.
Anyone else have any comments? Or?
Great job.
Thank you.
Very impressive. Thank you.
It's nice to have someone in that chair that is really driving athletics and being proactive, and a little bit of a thorn in my side because I got to rein you in a little bit because you have so many good ideas. You got to walk before you run, but I would much rather have that than not. So thank you for your efforts and to your team and your student helpers.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Good job.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next, Dr. Dearman will present information regarding the additional high school entrance.
This is originally Dr. Adrian. He's done 90% of the legwork on this, but unfortunately he could not be here tonight. He's not feeling well. So I did ask him to give me a written statement of where we're at, so I wanted to read that to the board. So this is from Dr. Adrian. Steve Curran of Moen Kerr, I think Mike Wisdom and Tim Wagemach know this gentleman, have been working on this since late December. Unfortunately, IDOT was closed over the holidays through January 7th. Steve has been in contact with IDOT personnel, and IDOT is aware of the congestion problem we experience on 91, and they'd like to help relieve that if possible. IDOT has requested updated traffic study numbers to reflect our current situation, not our COVID numbers when many students weren't attending in person. Steve is working with the Terra Group to put a proposal together for that work, and then a proposal for the actual construction of the entryway with 2 options. The 2 options are 1, an entry that ends in a turnaround and returns in the back of DMS, and 2, an entryway with a road that comes around the south side of DMS. DMS. Steve stated that the additional work with Terra is important because we don't want to spend $1 million to $1.5 million if only 15% of the drivers would use this new entry, which is what he thinks offhand would be a ballpark percentage. Either way, he will get his proposals in the next week. He wanted to have them earlier, but with IDOT's schedule and then people not being in the office due to the weather, he just couldn't get them.
I have a question. We paid $10,000 for a traffic study. Are they asking us to pay another $10,000 for an additional traffic study?
I don't know the specifics, but I can find out.
Well, it says he's working with Terra for proposal. Did we use Terra before, or Tim?
Yeah, but is it because, was
Yeah,
it during COVID? Is that why he doesn't like it?
No, we did those number counts pre-COVID.
So you would think they would be.
So I think they're just trying to gather maybe some of that old data, but I don't know for sure.
Well, I'm hoping that's the case because we've already paid for that once, so
I can find out.
thank you so much.
So what did you say, 15% is gonna use a new driveway? Is that what you said?
That's,
Or what he said?
Steve stated that the additional work with Terra is important because he does not want to spend $1 million to $1.5 million if only 15% of the drivers would use the new entry, which is what he thinks offhand would be a ballpark percentage.
15% of the people going to DMS or 15% of the total population, because it's backed up on Cedar Hills, but it is now backed up significantly on 91 as well. I timed it this morning, just at the stop sign alone, it was 8 minutes waiting at the stop sign. That doesn't include the time once you get on Legion Hall, get in the building, drop your child off, and get out of the building. We're talking, that's a 20-minute process. Whether you go at 10 minutes to 8, or 8 o'clock, or 8:05, it's very, very congested.
You would make a different route if you knew you could save time.
Oh,
So
sure.
that 15%
Absolutely.
is so,
The kids are already making different routes, going through the subdivision, going up on Legion Hill, or cutting in through the gas station, not getting gas, and it's kind of dangerous too, if they're doing that and passing.
if they're just looking off
opposite
traffic
traffic.
study numbers, that 15% isn't accurate, but.
I believe we could solve the issue. Whether, I know we were gonna hope that 0-hour classes would help things, it hasn't really. Next year, maybe more 0-hour, but we also have additional parking coming. I still not sure that's gonna solve the congestion unless that additional parking is for people coming at that time of the day and it's in front, because then that removes some of the drivers from the big circle congestion, but it's very congested.
It needs to keep going forward, in my opinion. So, whatever we can do to help.
I will get those two questions that I have to Dr. Adrian.
Thank
We'll have more
you.
information for you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dearman. All right, Dr. Dearman will now present information regarding purchase of an additional district vehicle. Dr. Dearman.
I'm pulling up my district vehicle. There we go. At the last meeting, Mrs. Holzhauser actually brought this up and had the question about the amount of money that we're paying in mileage to our various employees. This is exorbitant. Could we potentially limit that or eliminate a good portion of it if we had vehicles available? So I was tasked with getting some information. I just picked Fords for no particular reason. It could be any car, because I just bought a Ford Explorer for my wife, so they're on my brain. But you have two sets of numbers. The first one, a Ford Escape. The used numbers, and these I called the dealership and talked to them. These are averages, because obviously it's going to depend on the mileage and the year and the trim package that's in the vehicle. But roughly for a Ford Escape, you're looking about $22,000 for a used one, and about $28,000 for a new. And the new is not, a limited or a platinum type trim vehicle. It's pretty much a base model, nicely equipped, everything you need, but not exactly luxurious.
With taxes.
These would all be tax-free.
Oh,
because we're a school district, so
That's
we don't pay tax.
That's right.
The Ford Edge is, I've been in an Escape, we use them for driver's ed, they're okay. But if you wanna take 4 adults, to a conference, the Escape's gonna be pretty tight for the people in the back. So the next size up is a Ford Edge, and you're looking at 25 for used on average to 39 for new. Explorer is a larger SUV. You can see the prices there of 35 and 47. And then I'm not recommending this, but I figure I might as well just complete the line. The Expedition is their biggest SUV, and it's 50 and roughly 80 for used and new.
Are we talking just one? Because if we're trying to eliminate the mileage of people going from building to building, we have more than one person that's doing that.
Correct.
So would we need 2 or 3? Would we need,
I would,
start with 2, go the next year?
even if we had 2, it would not eliminate all of the mileage, because if you look at, the different directors we have that travel building to building, the personnel to go building to building, the administrators, the people that we have to go to conferences, it's more than 1 or 2, obviously, but I think we can certainly reduce it. I'm open to whatever the board wants to do, if it's 1, 2, or 10. But I would start small and see how it works before I would get too aggressive in buying the vehicles.
Did we see the employees or the type of employees that are racking up the most mileage and perhaps focus on those?
It's primarily some of our directors that need to go building
Right,
to
I
building as part
understand,
of
like
their job,
special,
so,
yeah.
I think that would, certainly help in that area.
You tally up the total cost that we've done or not?
Last
Mike
month.
McKinsey had that information,
Last month, I think it was
He did
shared it
last
out.
month, okay.
The total mileage, I asked him to have it ready tonight, so
100
I
some.
kind of figured that was coming.
like 100-some thousand.
He's got it.
Last year we spent $41,000 on mileage for everybody.
I thought the number in the report back was like over 100,000. That's for 4 years. 4 years.
And then you're buying the gas on these.
Insurance.
You're not on those.
Correct.
I'm not sure it's.
Well, you are, because you're paying
It's in
65
that
and a
number.
half cents a mile.
It's in that number, though.
Yeah, it's built into the reimbursement.
Are the employees complaining about driving their own vehicles, or you just,
No.
you think you're looking at a savings? I'm not sure what smart is.
And to be honest, if we get a new Edge or used Edge or something, I wouldn't recommend the Escape. I think it's just too small for adults. But if we got something like an Edge and we found out it really wasn't getting the use that we wanted, we could put that into our fleet and use it in the transportation department. So it's not like it would go to waste.
But when there's individuals that are going to conferences, are they using their own vehicles there? That would be a big one because there were some, I think I talked to you, some larger mileage reimbursements for those type of things. Like you said, when you go to the conference in Chicago, potentially they can carpool, those type of things. So
We got 3 in Kansas City right now at a conference.
there you go.
So you're saying the long trips is where you.
You would save the most.
And not only that, when they're not in use, then they can be used by the district, because they're always looking for some transportation, whether it's a small team that's going somewhere, right?
Sure.
Well, I would think if you had also one of the smaller vehicles for those daily visits, where you have maybe a director that's going daily, you're not taking 4 or 5 people with you.
Correct.
Like
And
Mr.
luggage.
Andrews with curriculum, he's needed throughout the district. Dr. Hastings with special ed, we have special ed throughout the district. I mean, they are required to travel, they
So a
have to.
smaller vehicle for that purpose, and then maybe a mid-sized vehicle for the conferences. Well,
And
this-
teachers could use it as well, so, if there was a conference that teachers were going to, since they are employees of the district, they are covered under our insurance.
So why don't you come up with a proposal for action item next month, and maybe get with the numbers, and you and Mike can figure out what 2 vehicles would be, what makes the most sense. Move on it next month.
Okay. Will do.
Thank you, thanks for the research. This concludes the information discussion item segment of the meeting. The board will now move on to the consent agenda. Are there any clarifications or discussions regarding items on the consent agenda? May I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Was that Mr. Feldman or Mr. Tyra?
That's fine.
Oh,
Tyler
sorry.
doesn't do anything.
Sorry, Mr. Feldman. And it's seconded by Mrs. Smith. Okay, thank you. No further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carried. The board will now move on to the action items. The bill list, treasurer's report, district investment report, bank statements are included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion for payment of the bills?
I move to approve the payment of the bills in the amount of $4,196,364.37 as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Holdhauser. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you very much. Mr. Wagenbaugh? Roll call vote.
Olshauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Aye.
Wisdom. Feldman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Information regarding the tennis court renovation is included in the board packet. Is there any discussion?
This isn't, the driveway isn't gonna go through the tennis court area, is it? The one that they were proposing?
No,
I don't wanna fix it and
we're
then,
not,
I don't want them to fix it and tear
I'm
it up
gonna put
next
the
year.
driveway through your tennis
we're
court.
not taking down the tennis courts.
Well, you can move them a little bit.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the tennis court renovation. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Roll call vote, please.
Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser. Aye.
Motion carried. Approval of the out-of-state football clinic is included in the board packet. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion to approve the out-of-state football clinic?
I move to approve the out-of-state football clinic as presented.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Wagenbaugh. Roll call vote, please.
Smith.
Aye.
Tyra.
Aye.
Wagenbach.
Aye.
Feldman.
Aye.
Olshauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye. Motion carried. May I have a motion to adjourn to closed session, please?
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: the appointment, employment, compensation, performance of specific employees, student disciplinary cases, collective negotiating matters, litigation, security procedures, discussions with defendants, meetings lawfully closed, and the purchase of real property.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Ms. Holzhauser, I want to say thank you for always reading that huge list for closed session and the big number for bills. So thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carried. It is 6:42 p.m. Holzhauser and Mr. Wagenbaugh. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carried, 6:55. May I have a motion to approve the human resource consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Tyra. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Feldman.
Aye.
Holzhauser. Aye. Humbles.
Aye.
Smith. Aye. Tyra.
Aye.
Wagonma.
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Move that too.
Thank you, Mr. Feldman. Is there a second? Is that Mrs. Smith? Well, that was a loud one. Okay, good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.